Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So today we are going to be working in XPPen as I wanted to do kind of like a little sketching session today and just take a break. We're just doing some good old sketching of some of the Snezhnayan characters from Genshin Impact because there's so many characters in that kind of like recent honestly update, or like because we're in a new region, we have a lot of the characters already been shown. So I have so many that I really like their designs, and from the snippets that I've been seeing, I really like a lot of the characters. So I wanted to take a little bit of time and draw some of them for you guys. Now, I don't know if you can tell by the intro alongside with the text, talking about my mic, and if you see like the finger flutters at the very beginning, this video was meant to be an ASMR video. So while we go through and do the sketches for today, I'm going to explain a little bit about my little mishap here. But to kind of like start off, I am using the right Boru pen, and this is like one of my favorite pens to use or brushes to use in general in Clip Studio Paint when doing sketching. It's very much like using a normal ballpoint pen or similar to like a mechanical pencil. It has a little bit more of like that texture, but the more you go over and over on an area, it gets darker and darker. So it makes it a lot easier for me to either clean up sketches or add value and darken up my sketches to a certain degree that I always enjoy. So we're going back to the old classic with our right Boru pen. So I'll make sure to put the asset number and or the link to the brush in the description. I also have my phone kind of just like hanging off my tablet, and I have my references. So I do this occasionally when I'm drawing on like my screen tablet typically, or I'll have it on a different window, or I pop open VizRef or PureRef, I guess, PureRef for the computer. So we're going to be starting off with Odette, I believe. I am probably going to butcher a lot of these names. I'm also might have consumed some black tea and maybe put too many tea bags, so I might be too caffeinated right now. We'll see how today's video goes. I'll try my best to slow down so my thoughts aren't like extremely kind of like scatterbrained and racing around. But for the Snezhnayan characters, I think maybe in the thumbnail it might have them all, but we're drawing Odette, Alyosha, Mitya, Vodyanitsa, and who's the last one I ended up drawing? Valeri, I believe. Like I mentioned, I'm gonna butcher the names. I do apologize. I have not actually caught up to Snezhnaya in Genshin. I'm still stuck in Nodcry. I've been meaning to catch up. I will slowly get there because I'm very motivated to meet a lot of these characters, as much as I liked a lot of the Nodcry characters as well. But I'm gonna try my best to catch up because I want to learn more about the story alongside with the characters, so we're gonna do that. And apologies also if they're a little bit out of character, but let's talk about the sketch first, and I'll talk a little bit more about just like general stuff and my weird mic setup. So for the first drawing or the sketch, we are drawing Odette, like I mentioned earlier, and I had like a pose stuck in my brain for a little while because I've always seen like dancing poses on Pinterest. And luckily, I was able to find the one that I was kind of thinking of because I probably saw it in passing. So I ended up pulling that back up. This angle, I typically find hard to draw at times because I don't add a lot of detail to the back. And I feel like the angle sometimes makes it look like she's looking with her torso and her body facing forward rather than backwards. So the body looks more twisted sometimes than it needs to be. And it's hard to differentiate if she's facing forward looking backwards or if she's just fully facing forward and her head is turned to the side. Does that make sense? Maybe. I've drawn this like angle a few times in the past. It's kind of like over looking your shoulder, but it's more dramatic with the back being more exposed rather than just like a side view. And I usually struggle with this anyways, but so it's kind of like another area where I should learn how to draw more of like the back muscles and stuff so that I can further define those areas so that they can actually resemble those places, like those parts of the body, so that it doesn't look so twisted, if that all makes sense to some degree. But the fun thing about this pen or brush, like I mentioned, is the fact that for me, I like to sketch typically a lot lighter, not like super light, but like fairly light compared to I guess like when I'm doing traditional sketches. So later on, if I want to, I can add more value, which is the step that I'm doing right now, and make things darker and more defined. And as I'm making things darker, I'm also adding shading, but most likely the darkest areas are going to be places with higher contrast, as well as like just wanting clearer, more defined lines. So something that I did not show, because I thought it would be more easier to differentiate the sound. So initially, at the very beginning of the video, like I mentioned, this was supposed to be an ASMR drawing session. I like doing these ones more in like real time. So today's video is going to be kind of split into different sections where I'll be doing stuff in real time, some stuff in kind of like time lapse, because some portions I want to show more of the process, but I'm not gonna subject you guys with a 2.5-hour video as that's how long the footage is. It would have been more suitable for like an ASMR because I think the sounds are a little bit more soothing to most people if it's like real time alongside with the actual drawing sounds. But I ended up changing my screen protector for my tablet. Now, I had issues with the company that was making the screen protector for this tablet because they did not have this one in stock, but they were very kind and added it to their roster of screen protectors. But when it arrived, I got one that was, I think, 8.5 by 11, so almost like a normal sheet of paper, and my tablet is 24 inches diagonally. It is not the correct size. So I messaged them back, they send a replacement, and it's still not the right size. It's about like an inch off from the height and the width. So I do have like a border of my tablet still being exposed on certain sides. But the reason why I was so gung-ho about getting this screen protector is that they have like matte screen protectors for screen tablets. So as you guys know, on my iPad, I have a screen protector from Paperlike, and I've always enjoyed having something with like a more rougher texture to a certain extent because I primarily liked working traditionally. So the glossy surface or more of like a smoother surface feels a little foreign, especially when it comes to sketching. But this one definitely wore down my nib super fast. So it's not until like a while later that I ended up boosting up once again my pressure sensitivity so that I can use a lot less pressure, especially when it comes to darkening up my sketches, because I go back and forth on areas a lot of the times for if I'm using the right Boru pen, because I want to achieve a lot of those darker lines. And like I said, I can kind of do that with this pen if you go back and forth on an area over and over again. But also for this particular brush, I have it set at to kind of like 80%. I think I list it a little bit later, but this helps things keep it a little bit more light still and allows me to have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of adding values. So moving along, we are working on Alyosha. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I am going to assume it's Alyosha. So he's definitely one of the characters very much like at the very beginning of them being kind of like leaked or being shown. Was a character I was like super excited for because I like a lot of like the softer males typically because they're very cute. They're very much like, at least to me, kind of like little brother coded. I want to keep them in my pocket. I want to keep them safe. But I was kind of surprised. I think his personality is a little bit more, is it kind of like deadpan, more serious rather than cutesy and soft, which I actually really like the contrast. I'll talk about the other characters a little bit later, but right now we kind of sped through the sketching process, and like I said, because I keep my sketch kind of on the lighter side, we get a little bit more time to kind of like refine our sketch even further, and we can add more shading. I'm adding hopefully darker lines to the areas that I want to be a little bit more prominent. And luckily, when I switched to the matte screen protector or like this more like paper texture, like I said, it did kind of destroy my nib quite a bit, but I'm gonna fiddle around a little bit more with like the pressure sensitivity to find a good middle ground. Because once I added the matte screen protector, it felt a lot nicer, at least to me, for sketching, especially getting like lighter lines, making it actually feel a little bit more like paper. So I had a lot of fun adding kind of shading that's a lot more softer, I guess, for Alyosha specifically. But once we get to Mitya, I think that's when I start to really understand that I should probably boost up the pressure sensitivity, because I could see that I have created a very good slant or kind of like a dent into my nib. So I'm going to try to figure that out. I do think that, at least for me, a lot of the time matte screen protectors I definitely do prefer over just like normal ones or like purely matte ones, because the one I had was like an anti-glare one that came with the tablet, which worked perfectly fine. It did get scratched quite a bit, which was like kind of like my main concern about the screen protector typically, but you know, this one's definitely more of like a splurge rather than like a necessity, because they are very pricey. I'm glad that it does come with 2 sheets though, so at least if I do end up burning through this one for whatever reason, I do have like a backup, regardless if like, you know, the size fits this thing perfectly or not. You know, that's okay. So let's get to my mic conundrum, since I don't have too much to say about the sketch currently. I also, maybe I'll touch upon this later on once we get to Valeri and a little bit of Vodyanitsa as well, because their hair is kind of on the darker side. For Alyosha and Mitya, I keep their hair a little bit on the lighter side, so there is a little bit less for me to shade. But Alyosha, I feel like, had more areas that I had more wiggle room in terms of like wanting to play around with the values. And oftentimes, if you see me fill in a larger area with shading, I will size up the brush and it actually works super well. It's a little bit smoother rather than kind of like that cross hatchy or hatching look that you can get from ballpoint pen and pencil. So yeah, if you're interested in using the brush, I highly recommend playing around with it. It's very fun to use. So my mic conundrum. So like I mentioned earlier, I had set my mic to be prepped for a different video and it didn't need me to be recording sound, so I turned off my mic and I didn't realize that I did not turn it back on for this session, even though I was like very conscious about making sure I had kind of like the playback so I can listen back to the sounds, and it was like sounding perfect, and I'm like, I can hear the pencil noises after like switching to my matte screen protector, or like the paper version, I guess. So I was hoping that I would be able to hear the difference, because I switched kind of like part way during Odette's kind of sketch, and I thought it would be easier for me to be able to tell the audio quality and the difference. And I made sure to, you know, play with the fan settings for my computer. I made sure that, you know, everything was like more or less correct. The only kind of like silver lining is the fact that, one, I did not notice I bumped the little gain thing, the gain knob, I guess, on the back of my mic, and it was set to very low. So I did not realize that even if I did get like all the audio correct, it would have been super, super quiet, and it would probably require me to double up the volume twice, which would be unfortunate. But the silver lining is the fact that at least I did not do a real-time session of me talking for 2.5 hours and then having no volume. I think for me, that is the nightmare. I think I've definitely done that before, but not for like a full session. I've caught myself kind of like halfway, realized, and then just didn't film the rest with me talking anymore. But I don't think I've done like a full session of me doing like a real-time talking video, realizing it too late, and then having to either do a voiceover. Well, most likely I would have to do a voiceover because there's not going to really be any salvageable sound like this video. Yeah, so I guess that's a silver lining. It could have been way worse, if anything. But yeah, I will pay more attention. I'm still very much like interested on hearing the sound difference. I feel like I should just take the 2 minutes to do like a very quick prep session and listen back to the audio before committing to doing a few hours of recording, especially if it's for ASMR. I don't know. It would save me a lot of trouble, but sometimes I get so sucked into a session where I want to start almost like right away. So I'll just be a little bit more mindful. It's more of like a me thing rather than importance for you guys. But I do apologize that it's not like an ASMR session, because I think this one, at least the duration and the session wise, was like a pretty good session, like only 2.5 hours. I mostly struggled with drawing Odette at the very beginning. She was definitely suffering a lot from me not drawing that day. So, you know, it took a lot more fiddling. I fiddled with her face like so many times to get to a point where I feel like it's okay. Definitely in the beginning, it was definitely more of like a struggle. I kept like maneuvering, I guess. I kept moving the eyes thinking that was the issue. which partly did not like how I drew the eyes, but it was mostly like placement of the facial features on the face. So like the mouth was not in the good spot, so her face always looked like it's being sucked in to her face rather than it being perfectly aligned with more of like a curved face, giving it hopefully a better shape, if that makes sense. But let's talk about the current sketch that we're working on. So, actually, yes, for all the sketches, I ended up picking colors hopefully that better represent their color palette to a certain extent. I think the only exception is Odette, because I ended up going a lot darker and she has more of like softer-ish, more purpley kind of blues, which I will attempt to fix a little bit later, but you won't see it in the video. I think I adjusted probably just for the final image, and I will size her up because she kind of looks isolated on the very left-hand side on her own, while I kind of crammed everyone to the middle and right-hand portion. But for Mitya, I find his hair very hard to draw. So another kind of like behind the scenes, I did some sketchbook session for drawing some of the characters as well. And one wasn't too pleased with the session, despite me doing like another, like I said, real-time talking video, and I'm probably gonna scrap the footage instead. I feel like I'm gonna have another traditional art video for this week, so I wanted to squeeze in something that was more digital related. So we don't have too much traditional, even though I know a lot of you guys actually don't really mind too much, but I don't want to oversaturate. But I should have probably said this at the beginning as well. If there's any type of video that you want to see from me in terms of like format, do let me know. I've been gravitating towards doing a lot more of the longer real-time sessions, both talking and kind of like the working with me, Pomodoro type timer, keep me company ASMR sessions typically, but I know that's not like everyone's cup of tea, so I'm trying my best to find like a good balance between the different formats, and it would have been nice, like I said, if this session worked out in the way that I imagined it. I don't know, I think it's because it felt like a good sketching session. It would have been nice to be able to show you the full thing, but it does feel weird either having purely only music for the audio or just having nothing. There's like not a really good way for me to do it in a way that I feel like is not like you watching in silence, you know? But because I got sidetracked. For Mitya, I struggled with his hair. I feel like I wanted it to be rounder, but I kept making his hair more voluminous every time. So his hair is a little bit like off-centered towards veering more puffier on the right-hand side, which I didn't notice until I started watching this playback again, doing the voiceover. And I feel like I kept trying to correct it at some point, but I guess I ended up not correcting it in the right way. He's probably a little bit more right heavy in terms of the volume. But moving on to one of my other favorite characters. Oh, I should probably say this. I think Alyosha, Mitya, and Vodyanitsa is probably like the three of them right now are kind of my favorites that I've been like, I need to draw them so badly. I like Odette a lot, especially when she first was like announced. I love cryo characters, but my heart always lies with the hydro characters the most. And I believe, I'm trying to think, is Alyosha Electro alongside with Mitya and Valeri? I think that's the case. I think I saw like an image where a person drew all the male Electro characters, and I feel like they were part of that roster. I feel like Valeri screams Electro, so it makes sense. Mitya also kind of screams Electro, but I didn't realize that Alyosha is also, I believe, Electro. So, yes, once again, I'm sidetracked. But Vodyanitsa, I absolutely adore her design, and all of the clips that I've seen of the English dub version of her cutscenes, she's absolutely adorable, and I love her so much. She does give me, if you guys know Niji-sanji En, she does give me a little bit of like Finana vibes in terms of the aesthetic and the kind of like bits and bobs of the color palette. But also like the overall, I don't know if it's a silhouette of her dress and stuff gives me a little bit of like Columbina, but I also like kind of the aquatic aesthetic because Kokomi is like forever going to be one of my favorites. So, and I feel like I've talked about this, or maybe I didn't. it might have been in the initial sketchbook session that I was going to have for today's video instead of having this particular session kind of last minute. But I love drawing like underwater scenes. I think it's very fun, and one of my favorite illustrations still is that one of Fremine. So I would love to do like another one of Kokomi, but I think my goal right now is that I want to draw Vodyanitsa because aesthetic, very cute. She's also a very cute character. I like the fact that it seems like she has both like a mermaid form and like her normal human form. Because I've seen like, you know, her idle animation of her sitting on like a little bubble gossiping with one of the fish. As well as like, I feel like for, I don't know if it's a running animation or her ult or something that causes her to be able to swim as well, which I think is very cool. So please look forward to hopefully an illustration with her probably, because I'm probably gonna plan something. And kind of like to preface maybe a future video that might be for Saturday, we'll see. Please get used to that, seeing that particular pose for Vodyanitsa. I'm trying to figure it out and I think I've drawn it 3 times. I'll keep that thought for a different time, but let's move on. So last sketch that I'm cramming up into the right hand corner right here, I didn't really have any ideas for him, so luckily he is the last one that I ended up drawing, and it's just like a very much simple headshot straight on. So this is Valeri, I believe. I always accidentally call him Valeri, and I know it's probably Valeri. I don't know. The IY at the very end of his name kind of throws me off on how to pronounce it, but I feel like I've heard it in passing. And okay, this character, I know some people at the very beginning of when his model was leaked was like, he's so ugly, or like, you know, he's so boring. I think he's cute. Not like in a visual way either. I think I've seen clips of him and he's very much, at least to me, endearing. I don't know. Something about him. I have also realized that as I was looking at his model alongside with some art of him, his hair pattern for his bangs, or the hair that surrounds and frames his face, is actually very similar to how I like to draw Kaisen, one of my OCs, because he has like the bangs crossing in the middle. It's veering more towards, I guess, left-hand side of the canvas, I guess, has more of the hair covering like towards the eye, and it's also a little bit longer with the hair on that side of the face, rather than on the right-hand side. It kind of has like a little bit framing part of the face. Does that make sense? I don't know. But also like there's like a little hair swoop that comes in. There's like a very easy way for me to draw Kaisen and Selwyn's hair in a very particular pattern, and I feel like Valeri kind of hits that same pattern for me, so I feel like he should be easier for me to draw. Hopefully, we'll see. I just had a lot of fun also just shading his hair. I think I mentioned at some point in the video where I think Vodyanitsa and Valeri had slightly kind of like, well, Vodyanitsa has like mid-tone colored hair, so I could add some shading without it looking too dark, I guess. And then for Valeri, I had like initial sections where I ended up shading, but I ended up making it darker and darker, and it did give a little bit more of like a 3D effect to some areas, but partly was kind of like by accident. I kept trying to make his bangs closer and closer to his face, as I gave him a little bit too much like forehead space, and where like the hair strands kind of converge was a little bit too high up, so ended up darkening it and bringing it closer and closer. In turn, it gave like the hair a little bit more depth and volume, so kind of like a happy accident, I guess, in that case as well. But yeah, he was very fun to draw. I don't think I captured him correctly. I might have like widened his hair out a little bit too much and not given enough volume on the very top, so I would like to draw him more in the future as well. He's very, I don't know, moe to me. I think I've posted it on my Instagram stories about me saying like, you know, I actually find him very cute or endearing to some point. Also me not knowing how to spell his name, but luckily I got it correct. But yeah, today is kind of more of like a chattier video in terms of the voiceover. Also, yes, I did remember to put the 80% opacity, just in case if you want to follow pretty much the same brush method I guess, that I was using. I'm not too sure I like really remember how it functions like at 100% or whatever the percentage typically is when you first download the right Boru pen. But yeah, here's kind of like the overview. So we have Odette, we have Alyosha. I actually really like his sketch, but I feel like I do gravitate towards drawing characters like this, kind of more softer demeanor. Mitya, problems with his hair, but overall, he was very fun to draw. I feel like his eye design is just very cute, so I had a lot of fun just drawing him. Vodyanitsa, I've been drawing her a lot, so yeah, she's definitely like a favorite for me. And then Valeri, I just think he's cute. He's cute. I know people are like probably thinking like, oh, swooning over him, he's very handsome. He is, but to me, he's just moe. But I think that's it for today's session, and I'll talk to you guys next time. I'll leave you guys with a little time lapse here. Bye!